I'm Commissioner Christy McCormick with the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. As part of the EAC's recognition of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I'm joined today by EAC Executive Director Mona Harrington and EAC CISO Jessica Bowers to talk about addressing the gender gap in cybersecurity. Although cybersecurity is widely perceived as being a progressive and forward-thinking industry, the fact of the matter is that to a large extent, it remains a male-dominated profession. We know, generally speaking, that the cybersecurity industry is still at pains to fill millions of vacancies. We also know that the latest ISC Squared cybersecurity workforce study from last year found that about 25% of cybersecurity positions are filled by women. That said, there have been some positive shifts, as that same study in 2013 was at 11%. A lot still clearly needs to be done to close the gaps, a fact that warrants special attention as October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. While the number of women occupying positions in cybersecurity is rising, the road to eliminating the gender gap is still long and riddled with obstacles. So today I have the EAC Director, Mona Harrington, who has been in cybersecurity and other IT roles for the majority of her career, and the EAC CISO and CIO, Jessica Bowers, who has also been in IT and cyber roles during her career, to talk about their journey and to gain insight on the gender gap and possible solutions to address the gender gap. Thank you for being with me today, Mona and Jessica. I'll get right to the first question, which will go to Mona. Can you tell us a bit about your personal story and your path into cybersecurity?
Sure, Commissioner McCormick. Thank you for having me here today to discuss this important topic. I was very intrigued by how computers worked from an early age and grew up in a family that very much supported my interests in technology. I gravitated towards STEM-related fields, and I started my professional career in an entry-level IT support position working for a CIO in a Fortune 500 company. I then moved into a help desk position, followed by a network position. At this point in my career, I was working on firewalls, routers, and switches, which was my window into a new dimension of IT, security. I then moved on to accept a position as a contractor for a federal agency that was in crisis as a virus was replicating throughout their network, and they needed assistance with its removal. In fact, this was about a week or so post 9/11, and the virus was one of the first zero-day exploits of which at the time was not really understood. I assisted with the post-removal effort by checking the PCs and servers to ensure they were behaving correctly after the fix, and I was very much fascinated by the work I had witnessed my mentors performing, and all at the same time perplexed how this extremely critical federal agency that has a responsibility to safeguard data that can potentially affect the global market did not have any internal resources to adequately protect its network from these types of attacks. At that point, I began to read up on cyber and decided to pursue a master's degree, and continued in various cyber roles and leadership roles since then. And let's just say the rest is history. It's been an incredibly rewarding career that's constantly evolving, so there's never, ever been a dull moment.
And we're delighted that your career has taken you to the EAC as well. So Jessica, this next question is for you. What personal or professional habits do you credit with your success in the field of cybersecurity?
Thanks for the question, Commissioner McCormick. I would say for me, it's having endless curiosity. You never want to stop learning and reading and developing your skills. Well, I think it's important to develop a good, solid foundation in technology and cybersecurity. You really have to take advantage of all the opportunities that are presented to you to really dig into an organization and how they operate and what's important to them and what should be secured. So I would say that's the number one thing is just for anybody really, is just to be a lifelong learner, be curious, and take advantage of any opportunities you have to learn more about your organization, the industry they're in, how they do business, and what's important to them.
Yeah, and being curious is important because this space is always changing. So you need to stay on top of that. I'm interested in hearing from both of you on the next few questions. So the next question is, why do you feel the gender gap exists? And why is narrowing the gender gap an important issue to solve?
I think there are perception issues. And a lot of women feel it's a male dominated field that's not viable because they want to have a family and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, that misconception, I believe, begins at a young age. And generally speaking, STEM fields have historically been male dominated, and girls are told these are not appropriate fields to pursue. And some of that starts at home, and the problems are difficult to fix because they're subtle and pervasive, and they're issues that are wrapped up in culture and education.
Yeah, that's so true. I know that I was stared away from anything STEM related when I was a kid. So I, experienced that myself. What advice would you give to employers in the government, as well as in the private and public sectors? What are we as an industry doing to recruit and retain more women into cybersecurity roles? And what else should we be doing?
Well, I think it's important, first off, to get women involved because we help bring different perspectives to the issues that are faced in cybersecurity. We can help change the status quo and improve internal and external processes and perceptions. And we help providing learning and growth experience for other women. I think it's also really important to review the existing organizational culture and any related policies on human capital plans. I don't know if you want to add to that, Mona.
No, I think that answers the question well. And yeah, bringing different perspectives to the table is really important. And I share that sentiment.
Jessica, I skipped you on the last question. Did you have anything to add about why the gender gap exists and why narrowing it is important?
Well, I listed some of the reasons I thought it was important. Why it exists, I think it's just culturally where the country's been. And I think things have gotten significantly better in the last 10 years, but it's still going to be a lag until some of those folks are, knocking on our door for a job. So yeah. For the existing women out there that are already working, I would say talk to your supervisor, talk to your HR, talk to anybody within your existing organization and see if there's some way you can get some exposure to cybersecurity, the cybersecurity field, or do some learning or get some experience. It's usually a lot easier to learn something new or transfer roles within an organization rather than say going to school and then trying to start without any experience and just a degree later.
So get your foot in the door and then move up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for students or women in the workforce aspiring to roles in cybersecurity? We've mentioned a few things, but what do you think, Mona?
I think advice for students or women in the workforce is, if it interests you, don't shy away from it due to the perceptions. Know there'll be an opportunity-rich career path for at least the next decade. Explore different areas that may align with your interests. There are numerous cyber-related fields that are worth investigating. Investigating those key areas and figuring out what resonates the best with you. There's, just to mention a few: risk assessment, threat intelligence, governance, security operations, security architecture, frameworks, standards. There's always cyber education and training. So there are so many different areas that can align with your interests. And so looking into that and figuring out what that is definitely advice that I would give. Also, just in general, to really try to learn from other women's experiences and build a network of mentors. Find your tribe, find that support system. There's so many women's cyber specific security organizations out there. Don't be afraid to ask questions and be strong and be thick-skinned and intentional and confident with your career.
Yeah, being tough is important in this field for sure. So, Jessica, what do you think? What advice do you have for students or women in the workforce aspiring to roles in cybersecurity?
Adding to what Mona said, I think that you just need to know it's a viable career path for women. I think there's always been this image out there of guys in hoodies in some basement hacking away all night or all weekend, drinking
That's not true.
and eating Cheetos. It's not.
It's gotten better.
Or it hasn't been for me. I mean, there maybe some folks out there like that, but professional cybersecurity is very much, like professional IT. You're working in an office, you're working with professionals. It's a really exciting career. It's not at all like what you see in the movies. Maybe for better or worse, because they do have some cool setups with monitors and whatnot. But I'm glad to not be stuck in a basement drinking Mountain Dew all day. But there's some other things that you could do, like if you're trying to find other women that are involved in cybersecurity, you might look up different hashtags, like hashtag women in cyber. There's a lot of groups out there that help out other women in cyber, even women that are trying to get into it. You don't already have to be established to join these groups. There's a lot of support to get you going in your career and to network and to advance. And most importantly, I would learn to advocate for yourself. Get yourself a seat at the table. If you don't ask, nobody's going to ask for you.
That's right.
And so I think you really need to let the people around you know that you're interested in doing this and that you bring a certain skill set to the table. And I think you'll be surprised with the response. I think sometimes people just don't think of women wanting to do that because it hasn't classically been the case. And if you express interest in it, I would say a lot of times people are going to be very excited to help you get there.
Yeah, I think that's right. So any final comments to wrap this up?
I think it's really important to look at both government and private sector organizations when you're thinking about this field, and look at what they might have out there as far as policies or human capital plans, or just their strategic priorities about attracting women to cyber. I think we've come a long way. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but just doing that research and figuring out what options are available and which organizations are focused on trying to attract this diverse talent into that specific field is always good homework that could be useful.
I would say study up, be open to learning new challenges every day, and most importantly, put yourself out there. We're looking for women to fill these positions, and I think a lot of organizations would be interested in talking to you if they know you exist. So just make sure they know you exist.
Well, great advice from both of you. I want to thank you both for speaking with me, Mona and Jessica, for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.